Welcome to Module 4 of Grammar Fundamentals for a Pluralistic Society. My name is Kate Crowley from the Program of Speech Language Pathology at Teachers College, Columbia University. I've created these modules with my co-author, Chad Grossman. This module will outline some morphosyntactic features of American English dialects relating to the use of adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, and conjunctions. Adjectives modify nouns and pronouns, providing more information about them. Many adjectives can be classified into three types: attributive, predicative, and postpositive. This classification is based on where in the sentence they occur. Attributive adjectives occur before the noun, as in, he ate the red apple. Apple is the noun, and the adjective red occurs before it. Predicative adjectives occur after the copula, as in, the apple is red. We have our copula is, and then our adjective red following it. We also have postpositive adjectives, where the adjective occurs immediately after a noun, as in, something useful. Something is our noun, and useful is our adjective. Adjectives can be used to express degree. We have the positive, comparative, and superlative forms. There's Tina is happy, which expresses the positive form of happy. Tina is happier than Jim expresses the comparative form of happy, and Bill is the happiest student in the class is the superlative form of happy. The comparative involves a comparison between two things, and the superlative involves a comparison between more than two things. In African American English, the comparative and superlative forms function in a different way than in Standard American English. In African American English, comparative and superlative adjectives can be regularized by adding an ER, EST. So you might find a sentence like, he the baddest. The comparative and superlative forms of bad are irregular in Standard American English, but they are regularized in African American English to form badder and baddest. Interesting. If you Google, he's the baddest, you will find many uses of that form, including a Nike commercial saying that Kevin Durant, the basketball player, is the baddest. If someone you're evaluating says the baddest, then you are assessing acquisition of superlative forms. That's correct if the person you are evaluating has been exposed to that use of the superlative form. It means the most bad, but the meaning of bad is a positive. You might also find addition of more or most to form the superlative. So, he the most happiest. Do you see another dialectal feature in these two examples? He the baddest and he the most happiest? That's right, we also have omission of the copula. In Spanish-influenced English, the adjective order may be different than in Standard American English. For example, in the phrase, the corn yellow. This comes from the Spanish word order, el maíz amarillo. More can be used for the comparative form, as in, he run more fast than her. The English of a Spanish-speaking L or a monolingual English-speaking student growing up in a Latino community might be influenced by the Spanish form, más rápido, when using the comparative form in English. What other feature do you see here? That's right. Omission of the third person singular S inflectional morpheme in he run. In Chinese influenced English, we also see different adjective order, such as she bought jacket new. Notice here the article before jacket is also omitted. In Chinese influenced English, there is also different use of the comparative marker. Similar to African American English, in Chinese influenced English, it's grammatically correct to regularize the comparative form by adding an ER to an irregular form like good to form gooder. Let's take a quiz to assess our understanding. What's happening in number 1? He batter. Well, besides omission of the copula, we have different use of the comparative marker, adding an ER to the adjective bad. And in the car old, we have different adjective order. What about in he the most stupidest? Here we have addition of most to the superlative form. And in he ate more fast, That's an example of the use of more to form the comparative. Dialect Alert. Different use of the comparative marker can be found in African American English and Chinese influenced English. Different adjective order can be seen in Spanish influenced English and Chinese influenced English. Addition of most to the superlative form can be seen in African American English. And what about the use of more to for the comparative form? This can be found in Spanish influenced English. Let's now move on to adverbs. Adverbs modify a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. They can be classified into different types. Manner adverbs express aspects of quality. In this case, the adverb quickly is modifying the verb ran. It's telling us how she ran. She ran quickly. Similarly, beautifully is telling us how he sings. He sings beautifully. Place adverbs tell us where. Here the adverb everywhere is modifying the verb looked. So, where did I look? I looked everywhere. The same is the case with here in the sentence, come here. Time adverbs express information concerning duration and frequency of events. So for example, the newspaper is delivered daily. Daily is modifying the verb delivered. Similarly, tomorrow is modifying the verb clean in the sentence, I will clean the house tomorrow. We also have degree adverbs that express intensity or degree. So for example, Sally is really smart, where the adverb really is modifying the adjective smart. Similarly, too is modifying the adjective short in the sentence, that dress is too short. Now let's take a little quiz, identifying whether a word functions as an adjective or an adverb. Remember, adjectives modify nouns and adverbs modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. In this example, beautiful modifies the noun day, so it's an adjective. Here, beautifully modifies the verb sings, so it's an adverb. Now you try the next one. Is fast functioning as an adjective or adverb in this sentence? It's functioning as an adjective because it's modifying the noun driver. All right, what about this sentence? In this sentence, fast is modifying the verb drive, so it's functioning as an adverb. Now that we've covered adjectives and adverbs, let's move on to prepositions. Prepositions express relationships between a noun or a pronoun and other words in a sentence. There are simple and complex prepositions. Simple prepositions consist of a single word like to, as I'm going to school. The preposition to expresses a relationship between the noun school and the verb going. Complex prepositions, on the other hand, consist of multiple words like in front of, as in put the chair in front of the desk. The preposition in front of expresses a relationship between the desk and the chair. We can also discuss prepositions in terms of their functions. We have prepositions that express relationships of time. These include at, during, until, on, or in, to name just a few. So for example, I will arrive in the afternoon on Friday. We also have prepositions that express relationships of place, such as at, on, in, next to, in front of, and between, as in put the ball in the box that is on the table. We can see here that the prepositions in and on can serve different functions indicating both time and place. We also have direction prepositions such as to, into, and towards, as in I'm moving to France, as well as manner prepositions such as by and with, as in I traveled by train. These are just a few examples of some functions that prepositions serve. In reality, there are many different prepositions serving various functions, and this list is not exhaustive by any means. In African American English, prepositions may be omitted or expressed differently than in Standard American English. For example, in get out my room, we have the omission of the preposition of. We also have variation in preposition use, such as, he taught himself chess in back the classroom. Here we also have our regularized reflexive pronoun, himself. In Spanish-influenced English, we might see different preposition forms. Because en represents both in and on in Spanish, for example, we might see a sentence like, put the apple in the plate. Similarly, we might see, I studied for be a teacher, which comes from the use of the Spanish para in estudié para ser maestra. And I dreamt with butterflies, which comes from the use of the Spanish con in yo soñaba con mariposas. Remember, these uses of prepositions are grammatically correct in these dialects. In Chinese-influenced English, we can also have different use of prepositions and omission of prepositions. In Standard American English, one might say, we go by train. In Chinese-influenced English, however, it's grammatically correct to omit that preposition and say, we go train. Similarly, in Standard American English, one might say, he's in the car. In Chinese-influenced English, however, you might see use of a different pronoun like at instead of in, as in, he at car. Now, let's move on to conjunctions. A conjunction connects parts of a sentence. We have coordinating conjunctions which conjoin two phrases such as, she went to the movies and I stayed home to clean, or I wanted to go but she wanted to go alone. The coordinating conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so. They can be remembered with the acronym FANBOYS. It's important to note that each of the conjoins within the sentence, for example, she went to the movies and I stayed home to clean, are of equal weight. They are both referred to as independent clauses, which we'll discuss further in Module 5. Subordinating conjunctions, on the other hand, connect elements of unequal status. One has more weight than the other. So, for example, I thank the man who helped me, or it's cold because the window is open. Because the window is open and who helped me are both subordinate. They cannot stand on their own. You can't have a sentence that just says, because the window is opened, or who helped me. These subordinate elements depend on the previous elements of the sentence. They are called subordinate or dependent clauses. We'll learn more about these in Module 5 as well. There are many subordinating conjunctions such as before, after, when, while, if, unless, although, because, since, so, then, that, though, who, and whose. All of these conjunctions serve to introduce a subordinating or dependent clause which cannot stand on its own as a sentence. In Chinese-influenced English, it's grammatically correct to omit conjunctions, so you can have a sentence like, you, I visit tomorrow. Let's take a brief quiz to assess our understanding. What processes are occurring here? Get out the car. We have omission of the preposition of. What about the next one? We go plane. Here we also have omission of preposition. We go biplane. And what about here? Put the milk on the fridge. We have a different preposition form where on is used instead of in. Finally, what do we have here? You, him, go to store. We have omission of the conjunction and. And what do you know? We have a dialect alert. In what dialect might we see this variety of preposition omission? Get out the car. This could be seen in African American English. What about this variety of preposition omission? We go plane. This can be seen in Chinese-influenced English. How about this variety of different preposition form? Put the milk on the fridge. We might see this in Spanish-influenced English. And finally, omission of conjunctions. In what dialect might we see this? We might see this in Chinese-influenced English. Here's some more examples of common preposition differences heard in Spanish-English bilinguals from the Bilingual Extension Institute Facebook page. These are real-world examples from clinicians practicing in the field with culturally and linguistically diverse populations. Here are the examples. We discussed about this. I dreamt with ponies last night. Ice cream of chocolate. These preposition differences reflect the different uses of de in Spanish. Remember, these features can be found in both ELLS and English-only speakers of Spanish-influenced dialects of English. Let's look at some other common preposition differences. John resembles to his brother, or you remind me to my friend. Also, I didn't put attention to the red light. These preposition differences reflect the use of a before the direct object in Spanish. Again, it can be found in English language learners and English-only speakers of Spanish-influenced dialects of English. We might also see sentences like, the milk is on the fridge, and I meant everything I said on the other email. Also, I entered into the building, or Miami is in the phone. These differences reflect the fact that en represents both on and in Spanish. Finally, we might see sentences like, I studied for be a teacher, and I read a book about snakes for I could know more about them. These differences are due to the fact that for is being substituted for so that, or in Spanish, para qué. I'd like to thank all of the clinicians who contributed to the Spanish-influenced prepositions and conjunctions examples on the Bilingual Extension Institute at Teachers College, Columbia University Facebook page. This concludes Module 4 of Grammar Fundamentals for a Pluralistic Society.